All right, welcome back. We've already styled our title section, our features section, so it's now time to style our testimonial section. And we're also going to learn about a Bootstrap component called the Carousel, which is going to create a sort of slideshow of all the testimonials that we got from our wonderful customers, like Pebbles over here. But first things first, let's style this section so that it looks nice before we start implementing the carousel. So similar to the feature section, we need to have a bit of padding here. It doesn't look very good to have long lines of text and images and text going right up to the edge. It feels very pure HTML. So let's go ahead and go into Atom, and we can see that in our testimonial section, we've got a section with the ID testimonial. So we can go in here and we can create a new comment. So this is going to be the testimonial section. And I'm going to comment that out, and then we're going to target that ID called testimonial, and I can't remember if it was testimonials. Okay, this is really, really important. If your CSS isn't being carried out or something's not going right, always make sure that you check you've got the right selector name and you spelled it completely correctly. It's very, very easy to make typos, and none of the properties that you set inside here will work otherwise. So firstly, I'm going to add some padding, and it's going to be the same as we had in features. So it's 7% top and bottom and 15% left and right. So now it's a little bit more squished in, and it looks very uniform with the feature section, which I quite like. Now, the next thing is we need to have this text center aligned. It looks weird to have only one line of text that is on the left, and also to have our images on the left as well. So let's go ahead and go into testimonials, change the text align to center, and there we go, looking pretty nice. Now we're going to change the background color. So I want to have the same color as this kind of orangey red color so that we keep to our uniform color palette. So I'm going to style the background of this section to that color. And it's nice when you're creating these kind of one-page websites to have alternating white and colored sections, because at the moment we can't really see where the feature section ends and where the testimonial section starts. So if you're not going to have explicit pages in your website and you're only going to have sections on a one-pager, then it's really, really important that you have some sort of way of giving the user a cue that this is not the same section as this one. So I'm going to change the background color to the same one that we had before, which is this EF 8172. And now you can see that that is obviously clearly a different section than this one, right? It's pretty good. And our text can't really be black. It looks very, very odd. So in our colored sections, we tend to have white text, and in our white sections, we tend to have black text. So that works out well. So we can easily change that by just changing the color to FFF and refresh. Nice, looks better. Now, this is way too small for a piece of text that occupies the entire section, so we have to make some changes there as well. So that text is inside an H2, so we can go ahead and change the H2 up here. And I'm going to change the font family to Montserrat Bold. And I'm going to change the font size to maybe 3 rem, and then the line height to 1.5 just to give it more space. And now voila, we have a very, very proper looking heading for this section, which is our testimonial text. And that is going to draw all the attention of the user so they can see how much people love our product. Now, the next thing I want to change is this image. Firstly, it's way too big, and also I kind of want it to be a round circle profile image. So in order to do that, we need to target this image, and in order to target the image, we of course need a class. So the class is going to be called testimonial image, and hit save, and we're going to copy this over to our styles.css. Now, in most situations, I never recommend copy and pasting, but there's one exception. When you have long class names or something that's a little bit difficult to spell, then it's a good idea just to copy it over and use it as the selectors so that you know you definitely haven't made any typos, because this is a very, very common cause of your websites not working the way that they should do when your selector is spelt differently from your class. Even small adjustments, say one letter is capitalized and it's not in the HTML, then it's not going to target the right thing. So now that we've got the testimonial image selected, we can go ahead and make it smaller by changing the width, let's say down to 10%, looking a lot smaller. Then we can make it rounded by, if you remember, changing the border radius to 100%. And that makes it a circle. And we need a little bit of space between this image and basically everything else, too tightly packed with everything else around. So I'm going to give it just maybe a 20 pixel margin all around. And now it's looking a lot nicer. Now, while I'm here, I'm also going to style this press section, which is basically sitting at the bottom of the testimonials. This is kind of the cred section, right? This is when a user lands on your website and sees how much cred you have based on how much other users love you, how much coverage you've had in the media. And so I'm going to group it together in the same section, and I can do that by giving it the same background color. So let's go ahead and check out our press section. It's also got an ID, and we can use that to change some of its styling. So I'm going to target the press section, and I'm going to give it the same background color. And you can see now they look like they belong in the same section. Now I need these images to be center aligned and not aligned all to the left and bunched up like this. So I'm going to add the text align property, and I'm going to change it to center. So now they're all center aligned. And then finally, this section cannot just end so suddenly like this, and we need to basically give it a little bit of a padding from the bottom. Let's add maybe just padding bottom of, say, 3%. And now it's lifted up a little bit and it doesn't look like it's so sudden. Now, last thing we need to do is that these logos are way too big. It's kind of stealing the show here. And remember what we spoke about earlier on about visual hierarchy. They can't be as important as the testimonial. So we need to make them smaller. So in order to change the press logos, we need to change these images. And I want to apply the same style to each image. So I need to give them the same custom class. And this is where one of those packages that we installed earlier on really comes into use. There is a package that we installed called Sublime Style Column Selection, and this comes from the Sublime text editor. And this is a feature that I really, really like, especially when you're working with HTML and you have these large stacks of elements and you want to apply the same class to it. I really don't want to just write it, then copy and paste, copy and paste. Nice feature here is that you can hold down the Option key and you can click and drag, and now you have a single cursor that is going to apply the same text to all 4 lines, which is really, really powerful, and I really like it. So I'm going to add class to all 4 lines, and I'm going to call it press logo. So now I have this class press logo that's applied to all 4 images, and that didn't take very much effort from my part at all. So let's go ahead and target the press logos, and let's change their width to make them a little bit smaller. Let's say maybe 15%. Yeah, that looks a lot nicer. And finally, I'm going to add a little bit of space between each of these images so that they don't look all so bunched together. So we can add a margin of, say, maybe 20 pixels from the top, 20 pixels from the left and right, and then 50 pixels from the bottom. And this will give it a bit of space between each logo, but also separate it from the testimonial section and also the bottom of this colored section. So I'm quite happy with that design, and we can now proceed to look at something a little bit more exciting.